Welcome, welcome. In fact, today we are so blessed to have these two orang kedamaan. They are so famous. As far as English is concerned, they are the authoritative voice for English, right? So today we are very happy to have Encik Muhammad Ermi, Muhammad Kasa. We have been working in the English scene for a long time, serving the schools, and we actually have the representative from Kementerian Pendidikan, MOE, as well as Dr. Nurain Balkis, who represents UTM, right? So we have the best of MOE and MOHE to share with us. Now, we have been telling you about the One Talk. One Talk is an international program where we get all the authoritative people in the subject matter that we are discussing. So those people who are authoritative and really knows the subject well, and the practitioner that do this every day of their life matters so much. So I will let you guys introduce a little bit about yourself and your background.
Oh,
Okay.
All right. Assalamualaikum. Very good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Nurain Balkis. I'm from the Language Academy, Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities. I'm a senior lecturer there, and since 2017 actually, when I finished my PhD. But actually, my PhD was in discourse analysis, HIV communication, HIV counseling. So after that, I've been serving at Language Academy and teaching TESOL courses as well as our English proficiency courses. Yeah, I think that's basically about it. Yeah.
right. Assalamualaikum and a very good day, everyone. My name is Muhammad Ermi bin Muhammad Kasa. I'm Assistant Director of Languages from Johor State Education Department. I've been teaching about 14 years, but already in the system for 26 years. Thank you.
Well, actually, if I were to read out the profile, right, the whole session, so cannot finish reading both your profile. So I'm going to go straight into the question. Today's topic is very pressing. English for global communication, strengthening English education for Malaysians' future. Now, Johor is a very strategic location because it's nearest to Singapore, and you guys are the people that go for globalization, internationalization. So the first question I'm going to ask you specific to this topic that we are discussing today is, why is English for global communication becoming increasingly important in Malaysian context and Malaysians' future, particularly in terms of employability, internationalization, and global competitiveness? So, Prof, would you like to go first?
I'm not yet a prof. All right. But before I answer your question, all right, before we dive deeply into that, I think it's better for me to set the stage. Okay, we really need to know what exactly is English for global communication. All right. So because we do have English for professional communication, English for corporate communication, and many more. So English for global communication means using English as a common language, all right, to communicate with people from different countries and different culture. Okay, and then this is actually, my students will keep on asking me, do I have to speak like a British or American? And then it sounded like what? Harry Potter and Hermione Granger. You don't need to have that. You know, what matters is for you to be able to express yourself clearly, make yourself understood by people, you can understand people, you can adapt to different communication style, and also respect cultural differences, okay? So the focus here is not about how perfect is your English, okay? The question is, can we understand each other? That's English for global communication. And in very simple term, I would say English for global communication equals to English that helps people understand and connect with people or connect with one another across different cultures and different backgrounds. Okay, so coming back to your question just now. Alright, I dah dapat mic habis tau. I macam stage fright. I cakap dengan Mr. Ermi, I ada stage fright. Tapi once I started talking, then my friend ada kat situ. She knows lah. Balkis dah dapat mic habis. Okay. It's okay, yeah. I need your permission if I may use both English and Malay, ya. Still we are Malaysian. Kan, barulah dapat sikit kalau kita guna Malay sikit kan. Alright, back to your question just now. Of course, English is increasingly important. Okay, right now, I'm sharing with you from our perspective at university. Okay, at university, we're no longer preparing our graduates for Malaysian workplace. We are preparing them for international and global workplace. So at UTM, of course, our students are among those who are studying sciences, technology, engineering, business, and even education, which are fundamentally international. All right. So, for example, they must, or we encourage them to publish their research at international journals. All right. And then they have to present their papers at international conferences. Okay. And of course, as you all know, UTM, we also receive students from, many different countries, especially from the Middle East countries. And now we are receiving more and more students from China. So of course, our Malaysian students, they have to work together with their classmates from different countries. All right. So therefore, English is not simply about employability in a traditional sense. It is more about access to knowledge, access to research, access to what else? Professional networks, all right, and global opportunities. And I would like to also relate it with UTM's mission because I'm carrying UTM's name, of course. It's Facebook Live here, live on Facebook. Saya takut sikit. All right, so this resonates strongly with UTM's mission, which is to develop global talent. Right, that is one of our missions. So for me, the important distinction is that we should not merely produce graduates who know English, right? But we should produce graduates who can use English, okay, to communicate their knowledge, communicate their ideas, communicate their innovations globally. So that's the most important point right now. Yeah.
I think the kisah dah mesti sampai kan. Nanti kisah dah tak sampai karena komunikasi tak cukup bagus kan. So Tuan, your turn. Oh, okay. Then let's look into the second question, right? Now, Malaysia has actually invested significantly in strengthening our English proficiency, all right, through CFR, all right. Now, CFR basically is used, especially one of the widest group in the world uses CFR. In fact, China, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand all use CFR. All right. The things that what do you think are the key achievement and maybe some remaining or challenges to this approach? Why is CFR so important, and what is the government stand, especially from the MOE side on the using CFR as a measurement?
Right, thank you. Actually, we have introduced our curriculum aligned with CFR since 2017. Okay, and then via the English roadmap by ELTC, English Language Teaching Center, 2015 to 2025. And now we are still using the CFR, not just for the students, but for the teachers as well, for the English teachers, where the English teachers need to obtain at least the level C1 for CFR. Okay, so while for the students, like the Form 5 student, they must achieve at least meet B1. So actually the pedagogical shift in Malaysia, we believe that we have transformed from the outdated, I would say, grammar focused model toward the real life language use. So, and I believe that our students nowadays, they can speak English fluently and confidently. Apart from that, we believe that there are challenges we face in the, delivering CFR curriculum, such as the textbook. Sometimes the content in the textbook doesn't match with our local context, that part of it. And then some of the teachers, they have difficulties in group the students according to the level, as we are not allowed to do streaming. So we need to do differentiation strategies in the classroom. As in Malaysia, most of the classroom very packed, 30 to 35 students in the classroom. These are the challenges faced by the students, by the teachers nowadays to align with the CFR. But I believe it's a good approach from MOE to align our English with common European framework of reference, especially for English. Yeah.
If I may add, yeah. I mean like for the non-specialists out there, especially parents, because I saw this one posting after the SPM results. This one parent said, anak I dapat apa speaking A2. I think A2. Kenapa
A2.
anak saya punya SPM English dapat C macam tu lah, something like that. They do not know that for CFR it's the other way around. It's from A1, A2, B1, B2, and then C1, C2. C2 being the highest and A1 being the lowest. So they thought A1 is the highest.
Yeah.
So we would like to clarify that.
Yeah.
Actually, it's such a good thing. We're actually going world class, follow global standards. Those days we have IELTS, TOEFL, and so on. But CFR is one of the most accepted one,
Yeah.
and Malaysia is definitely going for world class standard. That is really really important. Now the thing is that in our local schools, basically by the time we finish primary school, we must at least reach A2. That is the harapan now. And by the time you finish secondary school, maybe B1.
B1.
All right. But the thing is that in international schools, by the time you finish primary school, they expect you to be B2. All right. It's really very high. But then again, English is a second language in Malaysia or foreign language in many places in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
So we don't need to kill ourselves to go so
Sometimes
high.
it might be third language for certain
Yeah,
students.
as a foreign language, third language,
Yeah.
right? So this is actually pretty good. We know where we are, and there's a measurement to know exactly where we stand, actually.
Yeah.
Now, the next question I'm going to ask is that should our ultimate goal for Malaysian learners to speak English like native speaker? Just now I say, no, kita boleh biasa aja, can campur. Because sometimes, right, I hear from a lot of parents who telling me the kids come back from overseas, come back, they cakap sangat orang putih. Then your classmate hate them and ostracize them. Apa you nak England aku kan? Can you speak like a local kan? As long as you communicate it better and stuff like that. So should we focus on effectiveness of the language and then about the communication? And why should we do that actually? So let's hear from you guys.
Okay, that is, I would say, because I'm teaching oral communication for TESOL students, and one of the assessments is pronunciation, I think impromptu speech as well as public speaking, and that is actually the frequently asked question. Doctor, should I sound like a British or American? I said, why? You know, I would strongly advocate for effective, comprehensible, and confident communication rather than native speaker imitation. You see, sometimes we can identify tau students. Ni buat-buat ni. Trying hard to sound like Hermione Granger or Harry Potter. Alright, to the extent aku tak faham kau cakap apa macam tu lah. Okay, sometimes when they try so hard speaking like a British, I terus sorry my students dia kenal I siapa. I memang kadang-kadang actually it's part of kita try to close the gap lah, tak nak jauh sangat kan gap antara students. I akan cakap, kau nak cakap apa sebenarnya? Cuba cakap dengan aku betul-betul, you know. And then baru dia, boleh pun, you know. If you are trying so hard to sound like a British American to the extent that we don't understand what you're trying to say, then what's the point, right? Because communication itself is for you to send a message. If the message is something that, you know, we cannot understand, so what's the point, you know? So our students, you want to add?
I would like to add when Doctor mentioned that kan, actually in our curriculum we assess student according to the can-do statements. So not on the way you speak English. Sebab but you must remember when we teach English, kita kena teach the student the correct pronunciation, not the slang like the British slang accent or whatnot. Because sometimes some people call me like grammar Nazi kadang-kadang, because when I correct them pronouncing the word, dia jadi macam contoh when they say pizza, we say pizza. It's not pizza, it's pizza. It's not salmon, but it's salmon, something like that. Not the way they speak like British ke American ke, something like that.
Now, to be fair, right, sometimes, right, some of our students are really good. They speak proper world-class English,
Yes.
and they don't have a slang. We actually have a slang because they speak proper English. I still remember my daughter go to international school, right? She speaks proper English. So when she works for a medical company and speak to the doctors and so on, the sales supervisor says, no lah, you mesti cakap macam kawaii like that. Dumb down your English, be a little bit alien, don't speak proper. My daughter say, I cannot work for a company like that. I speak proper English, the doctor speaks proper English, but how can I dumb down and become more alien and add the laba for every sentence? It's susah for me to do that, right? So sometimes it's in context what you do. Now, the next question I'll ask is that, how can we move English language teaching from the exam-orientated approach, which is a key concern for many parents, towards authentic communication, the real communication that prepares students for real-world situations? So go ahead, any of you.
Well, actually, we have been moving away from the, I would say, high-stake centralized exam, except for SPM. We do still have SPM. For primary, we don't have that anymore, but we still, the summative test, what we call as ujian academic, ujian akhir sesi academic, for what we call as UASA. Some people call UASA, some people call it as UASA. That is the only summative we do have in primary school. But now we are also implementing matrix pembelajaran year 4. We are going to do that very soon. But for the secondary, we are going to do that next year. So the main assessment in primary and lower secondary, we do have classroom-based assessment, as we have the performance standard to give to the student according to their level, according to their performance in the classroom. I would say that as they'll be assessed holistically throughout the year, not only one time. Because I really like the idea of classroom-based assessment, because we assess the student according to their ability, their strengths, not just for English, for example, we assess only for listening, speaking, reading, writing, but sometimes their level of creativity as well in performing the classroom throughout the year, not only one shot. Yeah, right. So for me, PBD effectively promote the authentic communication by utilizing diverse evaluation modalities. That's my personal opinion. Yeah.
So the thing is that rather than take a one snapshot and measure our life or a performance, maybe that day I take the English test, I'm not feeling so well or something like that. Not so fair, right? But you have a whole world. That means some days I'm up, some days I'm down, but it's measured accordingly and I progress accordingly. We call it the ramp-up method or maybe modular method as such, if it makes sense. So the next thing, especially for the university side, right? Malaysia's communication skills. What kind of communication skills that graduates need today that maybe have not received enough attention as compared to the traditional classrooms?
All right. Okay. For your information, at university level now, especially UTM, if I could relate to the previous question, all right, we are no longer having final examination for our English courses. It's 100% assessment. All right, 100% assessment, more authentic tasks and performance-based assessment, rather than asking them to answer the grammatical questions, or they still have to write essays, but it's to prepare them for academic writing, where during the final year they will have to write their final year project. All right, because once they have started working, your boss will not ask you like, okay, Balkis, from A to B, or A, B, C, or D, which one is the correct answer? So no, they're not going to ask them, right? So it's more towards like preparing them to be able to pitch their ideas, present their ideas, present problems, solutions, and whatnot. Yeah. So when it comes to your question just now, communication skills, I think our graduates need some of these skills, definitely. Presenting and explaining ideas. Sometimes they do have that in their brain. Dia cakap, Doktor, saya tahu nak cakap apa, tapi saya tak tahu nak cakap. Macam mana tu? So it will be very difficult, okay? Especially, they need to make they have to make complex ideas understandable by non-specialists. For example, those from the engineering, okay, if let's say they want to pitch their idea, to me as a language person, I need to understand what they're trying to say instead of using all those jargons and technical terms, right? So that's very important. Being able to present and communicate, technical ideas in simpler words, that's actually very difficult. All right, and then collaboration. They should be able to discuss, to negotiate. All right, and I realized that our students, they are afraid to disagree to other people's idea. All right, especially when during a group discussion assessment, agree all the time. Macam, oh bagusnya you. Agree, tak ada disagree. No doctor, boleh ke kita disagree? Why not? Macam, that's part of your skill, having the ability to disagree to someone is actually a plus point, and then professional communication. All right, professional communication, they should be able to write emails, okay, attending to meetings and speaking or communicating during the meetings, which our students are still lacking. All right, because I do still, I receive questions from my friends from the HR department. Dia tanya, Balkis, korang tak ajar ke dia tulis email? I boleh tunjuk you course outline kami, tengok course information. We do teach them how to write emails. Boleh tengok slides, everything kita bagi. Boleh tanya my friend there kan. Alright, so kenapa? Why? They couldn't apply it once they have started working. Even when they are applying for a job, this is my CV. Pam! Or the best part is nothing at all attached to the CV. So that's when our HR friends tanya, korang tak ajar ke all this cover letter and whatnot? We did. So nak buat macam mana, right? But never mind, we'll keep on guiding them. And then intercultural communication, all right? They should know that if, let's say, they get the chance to work outside of Malaysia, all right? So they should know that there are some words that to us, it's okay, but to other culture, it may be, kind of vulgar, or I don't know lah. It's inappropriate, okay? And then just now, Dr. Aslam mentioned about AI. Of course, they need to learn about digital communication, all right? How to communicate through video conferencing and whatnot, because right now, we are moving towards having, we prefer webinar, video conferencing, because it's cheaper. Cheaper kan, you tak payah bagi makan, it's cheaper kan. Right now sekarang ni kan. And then lastly, this one, strategic communication, which our students fall short lah actually. They need to know how to adjust their language when they're speaking to different people, different contexts. Okay, even now when our students dia nak hantar message kepada lecturer, kepada our maybe visiting professor, the way they send the message, the words tu macam tak sesuai. Okay, they do not know how to adjust their words. To them, saya cakap biasa je doktor, tak ada jahat-jahat. I know, but the way you say it as if like you are requesting them to do something. Like you are, macam I instruct you to do something, for example, right? So they really need to learn that. So those are the things that our students are still lacking, and they need to focus on that.
You know what? Actually, I can talk one day with you. It's so many things I want to ask you. If I prepare so many questions to ask you, but due to the time factor, right, we don't really have much time. So the things that, of course, we speak about AI. Sometimes another concern that many teachers or even leaders speak, we want to do so many things, budget not enough. So it's what I call it, unequal access to quality English language learning. Maybe AI can pivot a little bit about this thing. And then the role of teachers, sometimes English teachers are popular, right? But if they disturb you and call you on the phone every day, you put fire lah, how lah, I still got family, got life, got everything. You cannot call me every day to teach you English, right? So the things that the last question I want to ask is that, what would be the major changes in education that you hope to see in the next few years? Maybe very shortly, one of you can actually just share a very short thing, your hopes and aspiration for Malaysia actually. And what you guys shared later after this, I'm going to present, I'll share some case studies about the application of English and how AI can actually help our aspirations.
Since you're running out of time,
Yeah.
so I just put in a very simple one according to your question. The most important thing now, when we talk about AI, digital and whatnot, we need to consider some teachers, they are I would say that immigrant IT, right? Immigrant IT. So they have anxious in using AI and whatnot digital. So for me, we need to expand digital equity to ensure not just those young teachers, young English teachers, but also those senior teachers to learn this kind of digital so that they can also deliver in the classroom. Another thing is we have UTM here. I would say that Scale Up Collaborative, as UTM also one of our strategic partners. So project-based learning across all school in Johor, perhaps with UTM one day. So that's good because I would say that project-based learning is one of the platform we can encourage students for all the skill like listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Some students they are good in writing but not in listening. They're good in listening but not in speaking. Right? So we have to make sure all the skills, the wattage, the balance with not just the teachers but also the
Absolutely.
students. Yeah.
Right. If I may add, yeah, from the university level, at university, we really have to work hand in hand with people from the industry. So that's why every faculty is encouraged, or maybe I should say compulsory for them to appoint those from the industry, where we call it as industry advisory panel, where they will keep on reviewing our curriculum, and we have to make sure that our curriculum, our syllabus are up to date and relevant to the industry, right? Because we do not want our students to learn something that is outdated. Bila dia start kerja, tak pakai pun benda tu. It's very important for us to keep, updating. Because for university, once every 3 years, we have to review our curriculum. That's when we revamp, we did put aside or ditch whatever courses that are no longer relevant. Okay, and then of course make digital, AI, and also intercultural communication part of English education, because we have to make sure that English classroom in 2030 cannot be the same as English classroom of 2020. Different, okay, although in just 10 years. Okay, so to students, they need English proficiency plus digital literacy plus AI literacy and plus intercultural communication or competence, and plus, if I may add another plus, critical thinking. That's what they are lacking. Critical thinking, they cannot think critically. Why? Because everything ditanya AI. Apa itu? Contohlah kan. So they couldn't think critically now. Whenever we pose them critical questions, they were like, give me 5 minutes, doctor. Why you want to ask your best friend? AI. All right. So yeah, that's all.
So thank you for sharing. I think in the AI age, I strongly believe the remeh-temeh, the benda biasa, let AI do it and let AI answer. But we need teachers more than ever, because in context, in relevance about everything that matters to our life, and especially our faith in God and our belief in God matters a lot, because that could be the tipping point, and our mental health is very important. So we thank you, teachers and lecturers, for serving. We really,
you for
really
having
appreciate
us.
you guys.
Thank
Thank
so
you. It's an
much.
honor.
All right, a round of applause to our panel speakers. All right. I'm going to share what you guys said in my next session. Yeah. Thank you. We have a group photo. Satu group
Baiklah tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, terima kasih dah setinggi-tinggi penghargaan kepada Dr. Nur Aim Balkis dan Encik Muhammad Ermi atas perkongsian